Internet, my name is Ace, and today I'm going to be showing you how to draw windows in perspective. Okay, so what I sometimes like to do, not always, sometimes I'll just jump straight in with a pencil, but I like to create a little plan of what I'm going to be basically translating into perspective. Now, this doesn't have to be accurate, it doesn't have to be even representative of the final image that you create. It's just a kind of starting block. So that's what I'm basically doing right now. Then we need to create a panel from which we're working on. Now, you could technically use the full size of the page, then tape some paper either side of the page to get your vanishing points. But what I like to do is work small because you can always scan it in or photocopy it and print it out at a larger size to do your final work from. So I like to work small because then I can get some wide vanishing points. In fact, a lot of the time I'll actually work even smaller than this, but I just thought it would translate a little better to the actual video. So once we've got this panel in place, we need a horizon line. So I'm putting this around a third of the way up the panel. Again, this is an arbitrary place, as always with the horizon line. You can put it wherever you want essentially, but for now we're doing that there, and then we've got the vanishing point on the left and the vanishing point on the right. Now the one on the right is obviously a little closer to the side of the panel than the one on the left. That just adds a little bit more interest and believability to the image. Okay, so we're going to be creating the side of a building. You probably saw the image at the beginning. So it's going to be the side of the building. So what we're doing now is we're essentially just creating a window, and then from that we're going to work out the size of the bricks, the size of everything like that, and then apply those bricks to the actual side of the building. It'll make more sense as we're going along. So we've got the two vertical points there. That's going to be the height of the window. And what we're doing now is we're just doing the horizontal bits. We're just tracing back all the way back to that vanishing point. And we're doing that on the bottom and the top. And they're going to be going to the left-hand vanishing point because they're going to be on the side of the building that is going to that left-hand vanishing point. And another thing, what I thought I would do is I thought I would do all my construction lines like this, just basically on a page, and then put a light box down and trace over the top of the construction lines with my actual finished work, because I don't really like using a ruler in finished work. To me, I mean, some people can get away with it and it looks great, but just my actual hand when doing it, I just prefer the organic look of doing it freehand. So I'll put all my construction guides in with a ruler, and then from there on I can do it actually freehand. So what we're doing now is I actually made the windows a little thinner, but we're finding the center point of the window. So we just trace lines from each of the corners, and that middle point there is the middle point of the window. And the reason why we're doing this is to find out the size of a brick. Because obviously going across the window will be, let's say, 8 bricks wide or 6 bricks wide, whatever it's going to be. And to actually find where the builder would naturally finish for the size of the bricks, we can do that. But this has just been super specific and being, I guess, overly correct and figuring out where the building would end. But if you're just working on a comic panel, you don't have to go into this much detail. I just like putting that extra little stuff and believability in there. And I would only go as detailed as I do go with the bricks because of how close we are to the window. If it was a bit further away, I wouldn't be detailing all the bricks. I'd be kind of adding lines in to kind of signify the bricks, but wouldn't be doing that. So we found that middle point there, and we're just tracing that back also to the left-hand vanishing point. We're not going all the way back, because what we're going to do is we're going to figured out half the size of half the width of the window. Okay, and then from that point, what we're doing now is we're figuring out the size of the bricks and making the width of the house the size of those bricks. I appreciate that sentence is just complete nonsense, but I think it makes a little bit more sense whilst watching. So as you can see, the size of maybe That's one brick width that we have there, or maybe two. I can't remember if I make them even smaller, but we've got something that works with the actual size of the window. So that section that we've just drawn there is the exact same width as half the size of the window. Because we're going back in perspective, these are obviously going to get smaller. Yeah, so here we have basically two sets of bricks. Now, obviously, bricks, to be more stable, they're kind of offset when they're built, but we can worry about that later on. So these sections now that we're doing with these diagonal lines that you can see, they are working out where the halfway point of everything is and then extending that out. So now I'm finding the halfway point of this brick so we can do the offset. Okay, so if we find the halfway point of this, then we can have one layer of bricks, that actual width, and then one layer of bricks starting from that halfway point, just so it's a bit more realistic, like a real house. So once we've got this all established, we can figure out how wide we want the house, because we've got the width of a single brick, so we can extend that. We could have it 50 bricks wide if we wanted to. It wouldn't fit in this panel, but we could have it 50 bricks wide if we wanted. Now, I decided to go for two brick widths, and then from there create like a kind of I'm not sure what the actual term is, but it's like the border that's around a house that comes out a little bit. So then all we need to do is create the rest of those bricks. So we're going all the way along and creating half sizes of bricks, just so it's a little easier for us to visualize where they're going to be offset each time. Now all we need to do is create the inside part of the window. Now this is kind of an arbitrary depth. Now we would essentially like the depth to be exact of one size of a brick, exact going back into perspective, but it doesn't matter entirely. But people aren't going to be measuring your work. Just make it so it looks fine to you. So all we're doing is we're just going towards that right vanishing point, creating the inside frame of the window, and then we can basically create a framework for the brickwork after that. If we look at the basic reference image that we created at the beginning, then there was like this kind of frame thing going above the window. So I just came one, I guess, half brick out from each side, just to keep it kind of even and make a bit more sense. And then basically lined it up with that vanishing point on the right, and then extended it out a little bit. And this point doesn't matter. This is just all to taste. You can come out far, you can come out slight. It just really doesn't matter for something like this. It's not like it has to be the same size as a brick or anything like that. It's just framework. And as I've said before, you don't have to go into this much detail if you don't want to, but I just think it adds this extra sense of believability to your work, having these extra frames on there and having the brickwork done, and having things like blinds and the thread going through the blinds and all things like that. It just adds a nice little bit, especially if you're doing like comic backgrounds and things like that. It just really does add something to your work. So we just mirror the same thing at the bottom, and you can essentially just trace the lines down if you want, because they're going to be the same. And you can make that bottom wider, just smaller, anything like that if you want. This is just what I decided to do. And once we've got to this point, we can then, I'm just extending the wall out just a little bit now, because I just feel like it needed a little bit of extension. But once we've got to this point as well, we can then create the side part of the house that I was talking about earlier, the kind of border that the house has. So again, this can be as thick or as thin as you want. It's pretty arbitrary, really. And then just defining the bricks and the things that we've rubbed out. And then what we have to do is we have to create the actual brickwork for the inside. So all we have to do is we have to go to the point, like the point on the corner, and then just basically trace that back to you hit the frame of the window to the vanishing point on the right, and the same on the top as well. Now what I'm doing now is just finding that center point, because we're going to be breaking that up, because obviously the bricks that are offset, some of them are going to be turned one way and some of them are going to be turned the other way. Again, that'll probably make a little bit more sense as the image comes together a little bit more. Now, one thing that is important to work out, for example, where the frame is going to lie in the window, is actually figuring out where that window would fall back, where it would lie back in perspective if those bricks weren't covering it. Now, that's super easy to do. All we have to do is we have to trace the corners back, the corner of where the bricks start, back in perspective, and then just join that up with the line that we've already created that's going to the vanishing point. You can see me just doing it there, and yeah, that point there where those two lines intersect, as you can see, I'm just going over it quite a bit with my actual pencil. That point there is where the window would end if the bricks weren't covering it. And like I say, from that point, then we can find where the exact center is by creating those X's that we've done earlier, and just figuring out exactly where the center point is going to be for the framework. So now we can figure out where our frames are going to fall. Now, if you think about a real window, the top frame needs to come out further than the bottom frame, because it needs to accommodate that space for lifting the window open. And this just goes back to the extra creating the illusion of reality within your image. So I just picked a random point in which to extend it, and the actual thickness of the window is, again, just random. It doesn't really matter. You just basically use your judgment. I could have probably gone a bit thicker. I could have probably gone thinner as well and still got away with it. It doesn't really matter. All that you need to convey is that bottom window will fold into that top window when you open it. And then something else that I like to add sometimes is a blind, like a blind shutter thing. And I've just gone like 2/3, 3/4 of the way down with that blind, and then actually created a pulley and the actual points in there. Just add believability. So that's all our construction done. I could have ended the video there and everything would be fine, but I thought I would add in a video of me basically just cleaning that thing up to get to like a more final pencil. I didn't ink it, I just left it as pencil, but it'd be definitely 100% ready for inking after this point. So we're just going over. The only time I use a ruler for this full thing was earlier on when I created the panel. Everything after then is just freehand. All the straight lines, everything like that. I just like the organic quality. And even if we're talking about brickwork or the border things or even window frames and things like that, window frames are wood, brick is made of, what are bricks made of? Bricks made of brick and concrete and things like that. And that stuff's, it's never truly perfect. It's never truly straight. And I think using a ruler for those things just deadens it a little bit. So just basically going through and not worrying about light at the moment. Eventually, we're going to be adding light in. That's going to be coming from the top left-hand side. But for now, we're just making organic lines. Just worrying about brickwork, just worrying about things like that. Just to create something that looks appealing to the eye, but it's still got those extra details and believability to them. And when we're working on things like bricks, we're not working out exactly how far outside of the actual, how far off the wall these things will come. We're just thinking about 3D and we're just trying to create interesting lines. So while I'm going up the side here and when I went up the side of the bricks earlier, I'm basically creating a shape that is the brick and then going in, and then the part where the cement connects the bricks together, and then going up a bit and then coming back out again. So I'm creating this kind of repeating pattern that is just fooling the eye into thinking that there's some sort of perspective and 3D illusion going on. So now we need to think about light, and we can get rid of that awful LED kind of trace board thing behind now, because we're using our brain for this point, and we're thinking about if the light's coming from the top left-hand corner. You can do it from the top right, you can do it from the bottom, you can do it from the top, it doesn't matter. What we need to do is we need to visualize which things the light would not be touching. Now, traditionally in comic books, a lot of stuff is done with inking, which is black and white, and then obviously the colors added later. So what we're doing is we're trying to get into that mindset. Which things will be black and which things would be white. It's essentially, where's the light hitting and where is it not hitting? So on the underside of things, because we're coming from the top left, they're obviously going to be black. On the things that are turning away from the light, like the bricks within the inside point of the window, obviously no light's going to be getting to them. So everything that this applies to, that's where we're sticking the big solid black colours, and it's just going to really add some depth to our work. And things like the cement, we're going to do them in just a solid black, just because it's going to create some interest within our image. And once we've done that, we can think about lines like on the blinds and things like that, where the bottom half where the light's not going to be touching, to just double those lines up a little bit. So just go over those lines and maybe go slightly to the left, slightly to the right, just to make them slightly thicker. And this just adds weight to those items and just makes them feel like they've got some sort of place within a realistic environment. So once we've got that lighting in place and we've done things like on the bricks, because they're going to be rounded slightly and coming out, we can just add a little bit of shading to the bottom of those bricks just to make them feel like they're turning away from the light. Then we essentially have our finished image. Now, as you can see, I ended up colouring the left-hand side, which would be the skyline and everything like that, just in a solid black. I didn't record that because, well, it's just boring. It's just me scribbling for a while. But yeah, this is our finished image, and you can see how that could be taken then to an inker or inking it yourself and create a finished panel for a comic book. If you've got any questions whatsoever or comments, then leave them down in the comments section down below, and do all that other stuff that everyone else tells you to do. I'm going to do the same. I'm just going to be cliche. Hit that like button, the subscribe button, all that other rubbish. And yeah, until next time, have an awesome week, and I will see you later. Bye-bye. If you want to support me and in turn grab some awesome goodies for yourself, such as early and extra videos and Google Hangouts with me from as little as $1 a month, head on over to patreon.com/aceconnell. I'll see you there.